Coming up on the Blerd Breakdown, Diddy is not going to get bail. He had another failed bail attempt. Marvel Studios is rumored to be moving forward with a Hulk vs. Wolverine movie. Captain America Brave New World could possibly be seeing more changes after a third round of test screenings. The studio seems to be upset with the first trailer for Superman, telling an editor to do better. And finally, could the Batman star Robert Pattinson join the MCU? All that and more going down on a special Thanksgiving episode of Blerd Breakdown. Let's get it. What's going on, everybody? I'm Winston Marshall, aka the Swaggy Blerd, and this is the Blerd Breakdown, a pop culture show for when you need to know, see what had happened was. Now, if this is your first time here, please be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, throw a like on this video, and get in the comments talking about any of the stories that you hear here today. This particular episode, man, I got a bunch of nerdy stuff on the back end, but I have to get to this breaking news that dropped midday yesterday, and you have got to hear what is going forward with Diddy in a new episode of Diddy or Didn't. Diddy has been denied bail again, with the judge saying no reasonable assurance of community safety is possible. Now, this is from TMZ, and it was reported on Wednesday at around 2:15 p.m. Pacific time. Diddy is staying behind bars after a judge just ruled his bail is denied because no conditions can assure the safety of the community. In his decision filed Wednesday, the judge in the case wrote there is a serious risk of witness tampering and direct evidence of Combs' violence, pointing to the infamous 2016 video of Diddy beating Cassie and subsequent text messages with her. In the text included in the judge's decision, Cassie wrote to Diddy about her injuries, adding he was sick for thinking it's okay to do what you've done. The judge is also citing evidence that Diddy violated rules about communication behind bars, including paying other inmates to use their phone access code numbers to make calls to people not on his approved contact list. As we reported, Diddy was in federal court last week fighting to get out of prison on a $50 million bond after he was charged with racketeering, sex trafficking, and other serious offenses. The judge adds there is compelling evidence of Combs' propensity for violence, another reason to keep him locked up. A grand jury handed down an indictment as the music mogul was arrested in September at the Park Hyatt Hotel in Midtown Manhattan and has been incarcerated ever since. On Friday, Diddy appeared unshackled in a New York courtroom alongside his attorneys to make his appeal to be released on bail for the fourth time. His previous requests for bond were rejected by judges, even though Diddy not only put up his $50 million Miami Beach mansion as collateral, but also offered to be on house arrest with around-the-clock security and no contact with alleged victims or witnesses. Two judges separately concluded Diddy posed a threat to the community if released, and he was also denied bail after one of the judges raised concerns about Diddy obstructing the ongoing federal investigation and interfering with witnesses. Worth noting, the judge does say if Diddy's trial preparations are hindered by his incarceration, then he can renew his bail appeal. Diddy's trial is scheduled for May 5th. Here's the thing, man. I feel like more and more is coming out one way or the other about how Diddy is legitimately a threat, and or the idea that, like, if it wasn't already apparent via the Cassie video, via a lot of the stuff people have said, but all of that obviously has been alleged. You know what doesn't look innocent? Using someone else's phone codes to call people, again, not on your approved witness list. I had heard other reports about some of those calls being to give instructions to intimidate witnesses and stuff like that. If I can find that report, I'll be sure to share that on the next installment. But it's this idea, man, that, like, you are not presenting at least the court of public opinion, like, the appearance of innocence. Like, again, to be doing stuff like that is kind of wild. Now, mind you, I was originally going to do a story about the raid that the feds did on his jail cell last week, because I didn't get a chance to cover all of that. I got some family health stuff going on right now, so I really have been a little more laser focused on work and making sure my family's okay, or the day job, excuse me. This is work. This is fun work for me, but we're not at a place yet where we're making a whole bunch of money. Though I will say I'm very excited to say that I will be doing some membership stuff and some Patreon stuff in the near future. I needed some time to kind of sort all that out, but I'm very excited about that. But coming back to the story, I don't blame the judge for doing this. This man has God knows how many assets one way or the other. The idea of the security, I gotta believe, has gotta be more expensive unless he's going to pay for it out of his own pocket. I feel like that's got to be more expensive. There are definitely ways to kind of wiggle out of it, especially if he's under house arrest in his own home. I'm sure he knows his home better than anybody and can figure stuff out. So there's like a lot of things here that just don't make sense for him to necessarily be in that position, not until we really get further down the line on this. Now, I've said this over and over again. If all of this is blown out of proportion and you know, Diddy is truly innocent and stuff like that, then I hope, you know, he gets his freedom and whatever restitution needs to happen, all that. But here's the thing. The feds do not arrest people unless they have an absorbent amount of evidence. There's a reason why their win rate is so high, because they don't like being wrong on stuff. On top of the fact, again, Diddy moving in some shady ways throughout all this, man, as the reports keep coming out about all the conversations with, you know, family members and friends of trying to move stuff around or to intimidate witnesses or things like that. Now, is there a possibility that, again, that some of the civil cases, I've said this before, are being blown out of proportion and people are trying to, you know, cash in on a payday and stuff? Sure, absolutely. Bad people take advantage of situations when, you know, real justice or things are happening all the time. But that does not preclude what we saw in the video. And this, you know, Diddy his lawyers tried to be like, oh, it was doctored. But what they're saying is that if the video was made to look worse than it was, really what it looks like the edits were is they were jump cuts in between. You know what I'm saying? So whether or not he, you know, slapped Cassie in one situation and threw something at her in another, and those were separated by 5 minutes, he still did it like we saw it on the video. Unless they're trying to claim that video was fully faked, that's a nonsense argument. Honestly, it's honestly a nonsense argument that in the same way that if I was watching, this is a weird metaphor, and I'm not trying to actually compare this, but if I was watching the recap of a sporting event or a boxing match or anything else like that, you know what I'm saying? They would show you, quote unquote, the highlights, in this case, the lowlights of what went down in that event. So I don't think anything about, I'm not going to sit there and watch an hour-long video of him doing horrible things to Cassie. Show me specifically what happened so I can get the point, and that's already bad enough, like, to have to witness. But you know what I'm saying? Like, unless they're making claims that that's not him in the video and they have proof of that's a nonsense argument. I say all that to say we have had enough stories from people. We have something like the Cassie video and the text, as the judge mentioned after the fact, to show that at the very least, if he's not some criminal mastermind, he is an aggressive and potentially violent individual. So it makes complete sense as to why this happened. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, and this is going to be interesting because I made it pretty clear that I'm going to continue to report on this as it's coming out and things like that. There have been private investigators going to influencers and to people on social media that have been talking about Diddy and like asking questions and doing it in really creepy ways. You know, so I will say this much: if I disappear, Diddy did do it. I'm going to tell you that much, man. But let me know what you think in the comments, what you think about all this information. Again, I will get more into this story, you know, do other installments of this segment as more unfolds. You know, and again, I'm just reporting the things that I'm seeing on the web, specifically, I mean, from, you know, news outlets. You know, TMZ can be a little trashy at times, but they tend to do good reporting. It's just, you know, maybe don't show helicopter crash photos. TMZ, yeah, assholes. Anyways, let me know what you think down in the comments, and let's go on to the next story. A new rumor is going around that Marvel Studios is now moving forward with a Hulk versus Wolverine movie. This is from Josh Wilding at Comic Book Movie. It's easy to forget now, but the Incredible Hulk was right there alongside Iron Man in 2008 when the MCU launched. The movie was neither a hit nor a flop, but given the trepid response to the reboot and behind-the-scenes issues with actor Edward Norton, it soon became the franchise's black sheep. Rights issues also came into play, and it wasn't until 2022's She-Hulk Attorney at Law that the Incredible Hulk was referenced in a meaningful way. Next up is the leader's return in February's Captain America Brave New World. There have been rumblings for at least the past year or two about a World War Hulk, or Hulks, movie being in development at Marvel Studios. There's no way we'll see that before Avengers Secret Wars, and a new rumor points to there being other plans for the Jade Giant moving forward. According to Scooper My Time to Shine, hello, Marvel Studios has begun actively developing a Hulk versus Wolverine movie. There's no word on what form the project will take or which variants of these characters we can expect to see square off. It could be another multiversal adventure starring Hugh Jackman and Mark Ruffalo, for example. Or perhaps a story set and whatever the MCU looks like after the supposed soft reboot Secret Wars will lead to. If it's the latter, then we might see a new actor play Wolverine, with Hulk factoring into his origin story similar to their first clash in the comics. Logan then working for Department H, battled the Green Goliath during his first appearance in 1974's Incredible Hulk 180. For what it's worth, Jackman has been rooting for this team up since at least 2014. There's no doubt he'll get in a fight with the Hulk at some point, the actor said at the time. Those two bad, rage-filled characters are going to square off at some point, and it would be quite fun. I don't know how much fun to shoot it would be, because I'm sure I'd be on the worst end of it, but hey, he can heal. In 2020, he added, Wolverine would beat the Hulk for sure. Let's just be very clear. I don't know if you know this, but the Wolverine actually appeared first in a Hulk comic, and he was like a last page, some guy coming, so it was the Hulk series he appeared. So that's sort of where that feud came from, and then Wolverine sort of took on this whole life, so I'm sure the Hulk is very jealous. Deadpool and Wolverine teased that clash, but it seems Marvel Studios might be saving the full fight for its own movie somewhere down the line. Look, I am all for it. I think I'm in a situation, or not in a situation, I'm in a place mentally with Wolverine as far as him being the centerpiece of so much, which makes sense. He's a very interesting character. I think for me, when you compare him to Superman as far as somebody else who really isn't going to die and is kind of immortal and all that kind of stuff, Wolverine is always more interesting to me because we happen to see him over the years and we get to see him lose loved ones over and over again. So really the curse of immortality versus, you know, the blessing and things like that. But I say all that to say there was a point at which there was an overflooding of Wolverine in the market, in my opinion. I love everything that Hugh Jackman has done with the character, minus X-Men Origins Wolverine, but I don't know if that's so much his fault or is it just a super shitty movie. But I think there was a thing where we were too centered on him. And so I think the idea of pairing him up with people and not necessarily making him a full-blown centerpiece at this particular moment, I think is a little more interesting. It's more interesting both to be able to see him finally interact with these characters that he's not had the ability to interact with previously. But I also just think it gives us a whole new take on it. You know what I'm saying? And instead of him just with the X-Men and always kind of running away. And to be honest with you, with the exception of the cartoon Wolverine and the X-Men and a few books here and there, Wolverine might be more of a leader figure in the group, but he's never been like the leader of the X-Men. And they continue to have done that because they were like, oh, Wolverine's the most popular character throughout a lot of these movies. So I am more excited about the idea of him being a central figure, but not the central figure. I think that's part of what made Deadpool and Wolverine work so well, is it really was a Deadpool story, but Wolverine was like a major part of it. I'm not trying to regulate the character to a backseat, but there's just other characters whose stories I want to get to know more about. And if Wolverine is involved with them, awesome. But either way, that fight, the fight between Wolverine and the Hulk is always super interesting, both their healing factors and stuff like that. You know, pure brawn versus just veracity. I mean, there's veracity with the Hulk too, but pure brawn versus, you know, the viciousness of Wolverine and things like that. I feel like that would be a super fun movie to do. I'm very curious how you expand it out beyond just that fight. I really don't want them, and I hope the MCU's learned the lesson to not try and rush this out like it did Batman v Superman over at DC, and just to say you had the matchup and it wasn't necessarily earned, but we will see what happens, man. I'm very curious to see ultimately how that plays out, and again, it sounds like it's a post-Secret Wars thing, so we got plenty of time, nothing to be worried about or thinking on at this moment, but I also think it would be very interesting. Ruffalo, we'll see how long he wants to continue to do it. I know a lot of that is, you know, CGI and green screen anyway for him, so like he might be good, or mocap. I'm curious how long Hugh genuinely wants to continue to do this, and I was kind of interested in the idea of seeing what somebody else's take on Wolverine would be. But again, that is my 2 cents on it. Go down in the comments and let me know what you think on the whole situation. Let's get to the next story. Oh, I don't like the look of this, but Captain America Brave New World is possibly undergoing more changes after a third round of test screenings. This is Mark Cassidy, a comic book movie. It really does seem like Marvel Studios are struggling to get Captain America Brave New World to a place they're happy with, or at least a place they feel general audiences will be happy with. According to insider Daniel Rickman, a third round of test screenings for the movie recently took place, and yet again, the feedback was mostly negative. Rickman believes that more changes will now be required, but Marvel may have already taken care of the necessary additional photography. Reports that the fourth Cap adventure was set to undergo more reshoots were recently confirmed when star Anthony Mackie was spotted shooting new scenes for the movie in LA. There was speculation that these might simply have been a few minor pickups, but it's starting to sound like they may have been more extensive. Is there a chance even more reshoots are scheduled? It's possible, but with Brave New World now less than 4 months from release, one would assume that Marvel is going to be under pressure to lock the movie down fairly soon. Oh, dude, I hate everything about that report. Honestly, this movie has been in a weird kind of space of concern now for a little while. And this feels like we are further ramping up this idea that this movie may not actually be good. And I really hope that's not the case. I hope that's not the case for the fact that we're bringing in Red Hulk. I hope that's not the case for the fact that one of my best friend's dads, Carl Lumley, I've talked about this before, that he's, one of the stars of the film. I hate that from the idea that, if we're really going forward with Sam Wilson as Captain America, that if it's bad, then you're going to get all the trolls in the world talking about, that's why Captain America, just he Rogers, ain't no black Captain America. Because I've already seen plenty of that. That is constantly a thing. That's been a thing since Sam was given the title in the books. But even for that's been revived with all of this, I don't care if it was in the comics. Hey, Steve Rogers is that. Fuck you. Get out of here. Get the fuck out of here. The writers of the story make that decision. The Marvel, the distribution company, the comic book company, the movie company, they made that decision. So get off yourself. All right, man? And the fact that there have been such incredible stories told with Sam Wilson as Captain America 2, again, I want this to succeed because, fuck, man, beyond the scope of just this movie and these characters, if the MCU has any more of these hangups, they could see some legitimate issues. This up and down has really played with the trust of the people, man. And if you get to that space, I am terrified of what that might fucking mean, man. I genuinely am. Now, mind you, you still have Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four next year to try and hold you down. You got Daredevil Born Again to try and hold you down. So there's a lot of stuff that people are also excited about that are dropping next year that might be able to kind of swing things back the other way. But that does not mean that I'm not fucking terrified. So with all that, what do you think? Are you still excited about Brave New World? What does this report do to you? Or does it make you nervous? You're not stressed out about it. It's just some screenings and stuff. People are going to run their mouth. It's just stories. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Let's go on to another story. This also makes me nervous. The studio is reportedly not happy with the first trailer of Superman. An editor was told, make it better. It's probably no exaggeration to say that the first trailer for James Gunn's Superman is up there among the most highly anticipated movie teasers of all time, and Warner Brothers is reportedly feeling the pressure, which is completely understandable. Gunn's film will not only serve as a fresh start for the legendary hero on the big screen, but will also kickstart a brand new DC cinematic universe. Studio execs will be counting on this first look to build excitement and get as many people hyped to see the Man of Steel take flight again next year, and it sounds like they are determined to make this teaser as good as it possibly can be. Again, this is hardly a surprise, and it's perfectly normal for several different versions of a teaser to be presented before a final version is chosen. But according to writer-filmmaker Dan Marcus, a fairly finalized version was shown to WB Discovery's Michael DeLuca, and the editor was told to make it better. Okay, this is a tweet from Dan Marcus. I'm really excited for the Superman trailer. From everything I've heard, there is enormous pressure internally from inside Warner Brothers for the trailer to be received very well. Apparently, the studio asked for multiple different cuts of the trailer to find the best version. To clarify, since every trailer necessitates multiple cuts, apparently the editor cutting the trailer presented a fairly finalized version to the studio weeks ago. Studio wasn't happy and said, make it better. I wouldn't want to be a part of the marketing department over there right now, which was recently gutted. Whew, boy. Though not confirmed, the trailer is supposedly being sent out to press early next month. If Marcus's info is on the level, could it be delayed? It's possible, but honestly, we'd be very surprised if this was anything to be too concerned about. Superman stars David Cornsweet as Clark Kent, the Man of Steel, Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, Isabel Marced as Hawkgirl, Nathan Fillion as Green Lantern Guy Gardner, Eddie Gathigi as Mr. Terrific, and Anthony Carrigan as Metamorpho. All right. Fuck, man, this feels like a bad day for nerd news. That sucks. I don't like. I want to hope that this is much ado about nothing, and this is being blown out of proportion, and you know, there's probably just a standard thing that's going on. And in some ways, it probably is. But at the same time, if we're talking about the MCU has to get their ducks in a row, I don't know a movie that has more riding on its shoulders in recent memory than Superman. The reasoning for that, for those that aren't always paying a lot of attention to everything here, or maybe you haven't seen us talk about it on Capes and Cows, or haven't heard me talk about it, WB is in trouble. Zaslav has made a lot of bad mistakes that has led to the idea of a demerger of Warner Brothers and Discovery potentially, of another merger and potentially them being bought out, all sorts of stuff being canceled and tax written off, and all sorts of nonsense that has been going on for the last couple of years, really from the pandemic on, right? That being said, James Gunn was given the keys to the castle and was given the reins to reboot DC and make their version of the MCU that actually is cohesive and works and is, you know, making people happy watching these movies. All that being said, if the first one out of the gate when DC does not have the trust of the people, the same thing I was just talking about with the MCU, could be disastrous. It could end this universe before it even gets started, similar to how the Dark Universe, that hold with the Mummy and all of the various monsters supposed to pop off with Tom Cruise as the Mummy, and that completely fell apart after that. Warner Brothers cannot afford for this movie to not be successful, which explains why they might have told the editor, no, make it better, do better, motherfucker. Like, I get it. But at the same fucking time, man, these aren't the reports you want to hear. You don't want to always hear, obviously. I mean, better to have good news, but nobody's out here in these streets trying to be like, oh yeah, man, no, I want hella L's before we get to the dub. Like, you know, I want them to tell me that shit was bad so I do it again. I get suspicious about there being no bad news whatsoever and people thinking shit don't stink, but at the same time, you don't want to hear of any crazy hangups. And that is something that I'm a little nervous about here, but again, I say in Gunn we trust. It's very possible that the movie itself, phenomenal in what's going on, but maybe this editor just did not make a very solid trailer. Could just be studio execs getting a little too uppity and scared about stuff, as the things we just mentioned. But I don't love hearing it. I'm not gonna be real. I really, really don't. That makes me uneasy. But let me know what you think. Am I getting too riled up about this? Is this about the big nothing burger? Or do you think that something's wrong in the state of Denmark, man? Is this something that we need to be worried about this film and this universe? Lord knows all the Snyder heads are probably like, yeah, fuck that. Ain't nobody but Zack Snyder, bitch. But I truly believe in Gunn, man, so I'm hoping that this is wrong. Let me know what you think in the comments, and let's go on to our last story. Woo. Now, this is huge. The Batman star Robert Pattinson is rumored to have met with Kevin Feige for a possible MCU role. This is Mark Cassidy from Comic Book Movie. Could our current big screen Cape Crusader eventually find his way to the MCU? According to scooper Daniel Rickman, the Batman star Robert Pattinson has met with Marvel Studios boss Kevin Feige about possibly taking on a role in a future MCU project. As far-fetched as this might sound, it's worth noting that the studio takes meetings with a lot of in-demand actors or their agents, without entering any sort of official negotiations for specific characters, so it's entirely possible that Pattinson and Feige sat down to chat in a roundabout way about potentially collaborating down the line. Pattinson is set to return as Bruce Wayne / The Dark Knight for the Batman sequel, and director Matt Reeves has said that he does hope to helm a third film. But we know that James Gunn and Peter Safran will eventually cast a new actor as the DCU's Batman for the Brave and the Bold movie, so Pattinson may not be locked into any long-term contract with Warner Brothers / DC Studios. That said, we recently learned that Pattinson is set to re-team with Tenet director Christopher Nolan for his next film, so if he's considering making the jump to the MCU, it probably won't be for quite some time. Even so, there's already a lot of speculation and fan casting online, and the character that most people seem to want Pattinson to play is none other than the Beyonder. A recent rumor claimed that Marvel Studios is casting a secret role for Avengers Doomsday, with the well-known Marvel character set to have a more significant role in Avengers Secret Wars. Is there any chance this is the part Pattinson took a meeting about? Depending on what type of commitment the actor would need to make, it's always possible, but we wouldn't say it's very likely. Are there any Marvel Comics characters that you think Pattinson would be a good fit for? All right, let's talk about it. Look, I have been converted to the church of Robert Pattinson. I was one of those people that was like, you mean the Twilight motherfucker? Boo. No. Why are you making him Batman? And I gotta give Christian Harloff credit, man. This was back in the Collider Live days. I went and watched some of his other work. Good Time is the one that sticks out in mind in particular, and I got to see how incredibly talented of an actor Robert Pattinson is. And it really, for me, was ultimately just the material. Like, he was both a young actor. He was dealing with a lot of drama. His relationship with Kristen Stewart and her cheating and, being a teen heartthrob in that regard because of those movies. And so that kind of pressure that came with it. There's like a lot going on there, right? He went and sunk his teeth into like meaty, solid roles, and he has been a fantastic actor ever since. So I have fully been converted, and then he came and did the Batman, and he crushed that shit. I still feel like the movie's a little bit too long, but it is a fantastic movie. It's one of the best superhero movies that we've ever seen. Matt Reeves crushed it. Robert Pattinson crushed it. So if you're going to tell me that you're going to take an actor of this caliber and you're going to introduce him into the MCU, I am all fucking here for it. There have been plenty of people that have played in both sandboxes without any sort of issue whatsoever. And we're about to get even more of them since obviously with James Gunn being in charge and he likes his homies, he put a lot of good people on already that hadn't had the opportunity, but like he specifically, has worked with his brother with everything that he's done. All sorts of folks have kind of made the jump back and forth without any issue. So I think that Pattinson would be great to flip over from DC to Marvel. I think the Beyonder would be a very interesting, good character. He obviously can play the kind of ethereal stuff very, very well. Some other choices that I would love to see him as, let's see. Like, who haven't we seen yet? I mean, we haven't seen really any mutants yet, so you can kind of open the door really for anybody there. It'd be dope as, like, Captain Britain. I think that would be kind of dope. Trying to think who else he could potentially play. I keep talking about how badly I want to see Mr. Sinister, but I don't think that's a good fit for him. I still stand by. I think Ryan Gosling would crush that. It'd be fun to see him play a villain. We haven't had a Bullseye yet. That could actually be kind of interesting. I don't think we have, unless you're counting the Bullseye from the Daredevil show. Which, okay, then I guess maybe not. But we don't. I mean, it's supposed to be a continuation. I don't know about the full continuity yet, so I'd be really interested to see where that goes. There's definitely a number of different roles that he could potentially pick up. So I don't hate the idea of the Beyonder. I really, really don't. But yeah, I'm curious. Let me know what you think would be a good character for him, where you'd like to see him pop up. I'm genuinely very, very curious what your thoughts are. He could be a good Scott Summers. I don't know how much he wants to dive into a lead role like that. There's some better picks, I think, but I think he could crush that as well. Who else? Oh, bro, he would be a great Dracula. Holy shit. The MCU Dracula, he would be a great Dracula, and then you could put him up with like the Midnight Suns and Blade and all that shit. Ooh, that would be good. I would be here for that. That would be fucking fantastic. But again, let me know what you think. If a role pops up into mind that you think Robert Pattinson would crush, let me know. And that's going to be it for the Blerd Breakdown. Thank you so much for watching the show, man. If you haven't already, please be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, throw a like on this video if you enjoy the content, man, and definitely get in the comments. Let me know what you think about any and all of these stories. Now, I normally do a sports segment on here, but I wanted to make this one a little bit shorter so I can make sure I can get it out for you. Obviously, we're coming up on Thanksgiving, as I mentioned previously. I do have some family health issues going on right now, so I have been a little in and out, but I want to make sure that I'm still getting you content every week at the bare minimum, if not one video here plus some other stuff. I want to get back up to our 2 to 3 times a week doing all that, and we will, get back to that faux show. Other than that, I will put out a little promo. I don't have time to cut it right now. A friend of the show, a good buddy of mine from the Schmodown days and the Collider days and all that, Robert Butler RB3, man. He is also doing a campaign. I'll talk more about that about his project Urban Luxury on the next episode, so definitely check that out. Be sure, if you haven't already, go find me at the Swaggy Blerd on all platforms. I've started Breakfast AM News up again. That's kind of like my version of the weekend update. It doesn't really come out in AM anymore. It is what it is. It's just kind of the name, so fuck it. But got some jokes on there. That tends to be, you know, I cover everything, man. I hit people with politics. I hit people with sports. I hit people with whatever is going on in the news. You've seen the weekend update before. You've seen late night shows. Everybody getting these jokes. It is what it is. So that's back. Capes and Cows will be on Friday. This is probably out Thanksgiving morning, so tomorrow we'll have a Capes and Cows. It will just be myself and Coy, so keep that in mind. But we're excited to be able to bring you an episode there. We didn't do a game time this week. We might do one on Friday. I will let you know about that as soon as I know. And then next week, man, again, I've got a lot of stuff going on. My mom's birthday, my other family members' surgery is going on, so I will be around. How much I'm around is yet to be determined. It really depends on where I need to be at those times. So I do ask for any of you that are watching this, man, please, if you're religious, throw up some prayers, some meditations, whatever you do in your religion for my family. And if you're not, just some, positive thoughts and energy and all that, and just put that out in the universe. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it, man. It's been kind of a crazy time. So I do appreciate having this community here, man, and having you guys to be able to interact with and have a good time and all that kind of stuff. Last thing, I haven't really talked to him about it. I'll talk to Jay about maybe doing a end of the year Blerds in the Hood. I'll talk to him about that and see if that's something he wants to get into. But other than that, man, that is going to be it. So I will see y'all in the next one. Be sure to check out one of these other videos that I got up here on the page. And until next time, y'all stay safe and happy Turkey Day, motherfuckers. All right, man. Peace.